Still loading.
I get those goosebumps every time, yeah, 713. Through the 281, yeah, I'm riding. Why they on me? Why they on me? I'm flying, sipping low-key. I'm sipping low-key and honest, rider. I get those goosebumps every time. I'm around, yeah. 'Cause I'm hard to make everything go fine. I get those goosebumps every time. I need the Heimlich, throw that to the side. I get those goosebumps every time, yeah. When you're not around me, throw that to the side. I get those goosebumps every time.
Up the mods. Yes, sir.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Loaded Mag NUFC. We're back. The games are coming thick and fast, and we're back for another match preview. Big away days, big one as well. Last one at Goodison Park, so we're going to get into this. There's no doubt about it. And Chris, how are you on this fine Thursday evening? How are things, fella?
All good, mate. Yeah, I was in Leeds earlier on in the week. Came back last night. Absolutely shattered, but yeah, feeling a bit more like myself today. And all good, mate. Yeah, and I must admit, I said this on a recent show, didn't I? I was pleased that Everton got their first win of the season against Palace last week, because I dreaded going into this game with Everton still not picking up the first win of the season, because you can guarantee if anyone's going to hand them it'd be Newcastle. So the fact that they've got the first win out the way, feeling good now about the weekends. You know, yet another late kickoff. I know it's on a Saturday, which is quite unusual because normally we play Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, whenever it is. So to play on the weekend is slightly unusual, but now really looking forward to the game, mate. And obviously great to have Mike back on as well. I always enjoy talking to Mike. So yeah, all good, mate. But what about you? Are you all right?
All good. Yeah. Same old busy week. All the rest of it, but always good to come on and talk Newcastle United. And good to get back into it. Massive game at the weekend to set us off into another international break. Absolutely drive me mad, but hopefully we'll be going off into the international break with a positive. Great to have everyone in the chat. As Tom Dixon says, make sure you hit that like. You're new, just coming in, just logging in right now, settling in, hit that like button. And thank you for watching. Thank you for all your support. Thank you, as always, Tom, great mod on the button as ever. And of course, we're going to give the shout outs to the people in the chat. What we're doing for you shout outs, of course, Tom Dixon in there early as ever. Big up to yourself. Jordy Toon for life. Toon. Great to have you in there. And of course, Bill, always in the house, along with William. Great to have you. Andy Ford, regular on the channel now. Great to have you in there. And Paul Spragg, great stuff as well. We do need a good performance and 3 points. That'd be nice, Chris. A good performance, 3 points. We haven't had one this season.
No. Good performance last week. Didn't get the 3 points, but yeah, it's overdue, mate. And I'm hoping if we can do it at Goodison Park. What a lovely way to sign out at Goodison Park, you know, to turn up and get all 3 points and play well, hopefully.
Definitely. Justin, great to have you in there, fella. Just talking to you a minute ago, so I hope you're well. Another mod, Antoon, great to have you with us. And as well, she also says, hit that like button as soon as possible. So if you're just coming in now, make sure you get that done. PDK, great to have you. Just
to add, sorry, Pete, just to add as well, just as well as the Tunes while you were on, and Toonami has gifted a load of membership. So thank you very much for that, Anne. Much appreciated. Sorry, Pete, carry on, mate.
No problem at all. Very generous. as always, Anne, and we all massively appreciate it. Maurice, fantastic. Great to have you in there as always. And of course, we've got Dave in the house. So many regulars. We love it and we appreciate you. So thank you for tuning in. Look, let's not beat around the bush. Let's get the man in. It's an absolute pleasure to welcome him back. He's having He's having a laugh. Well, look, let's get him in. Mike from the Unholy Trinity. I didn't see that coming. Look at him.
How are we, lad? You okay? I'm going to wait for the whole show. The whole show is staying on.
I knew there's something up your sleeve, man. How you doing?
Good, mate. Good, yeah. All good this end. Besides the Blues start of the season. I'll take it off for you now. You've seen enough of Jordan. Do you know what I mean? England number one.
That's better.
As we all know. Listen, it's been a typical Everton start of the season, hasn't it? You know, we've same number of points as this time last season. So not a great deal of progression you could argue in terms of on the pitch points wise. We feel we've done all right in the window, to be fair. We had a decent summer window. A few players went, obviously, but we brought in some decent players, and I'm sure we'll talk through those as well. But no, it's been as I say, typical Everton start of the season. But like you say, final one at Goodison Park. So hopefully we can sign off with a semi-decent season this season.
Definitely. And look, we're going to start with it before we get into the results and fixtures and all the rest of it, tactics. You are very, very close to getting finally your takeover after 2 or 3 years of kind of battling away with various different wannabe owners that came and went. Just give us an idea of what's happening right now. What is the situation with Everton Football Club and your potential new ownership, mate?
As of last Monday, it was announced that the Freaking Group, so those who don't know, they are the group that own Roma. They were talking to Farhad Mashiri over the course of the summer, and then we were all very pleased about that after what had gone on with 777. Obviously the false dawn prior to that with MSP as well. So we were seeing a light at the end of the tunnel. They pulled out in July. We all sort of thought this is a bit of a ploy. They've been there before with Roma, done exactly the same thing. But we know Everton have got their issues behind the scenes financially. So, something has come up. We thought it would be around 777 and the £200 million loan, and the fact that they've gone bust. ACAP is another company who've taken them over. There's all kinds of court cases and everything in the background as well. So they went away. John Texter, one of Crystal Palace's major shareholders, should we say, owns 45% of Crystal Palace. He comes in, very, very vocal. You would have seen him all over Sky Sports, I'm sure, saying about what how he sees the club, and the fact that it's like moving into the White House if he gets to buy Everton and things like that. And I don't think Farhad Mashiri was too pleased with that. And then all of a sudden, we thought John Textor was leading the way, and the Freaking Group come back in, and it's deal agreed. So all these situations around the debt seems to have been rectified. There's still an ongoing situation with 777 in a court in New York, but there doesn't seem to be any kind of issue because a deal's been agreed. The court will just say, yeah, you can pay it that way, or you've got to go to, you've got to restructure it differently. But as Evertonians, we're massively now, breathing a bit of a sigh of relief, really. We're 95% of the way there, basically, is how we see it. It's going to go through the standard Premier League checks, of course. But this, the Freaking Group, they are not 777. There'll be no issue with the directors and ownership tests. It should be passed in around 8 to 12 weeks from last week. So we're looking in and around probably end of November, start of December. So it could be, hopefully, a happy Christmas for us Evertonians.
Very much so. Like, what are the credentials of the group that taken over? It's the one thing that fans tend to look at. Obviously for us, we would have been happy with anyone with a little bit of ambition taking over Newcastle with Mike Ashley. I imagine you guys were the same, but obviously with a lot of ownerships, with the likes of Aston Villa, for example, they've got an owner that's got quite a bit of money that's willing to put money into the club. Obviously, with us, with PIF, there are other ownerships as well that are putting their money in Nottingham Forest, for example, who spent quite a lot of money in the last few years. What are their credentials? Are they an ownership group that's got a fair bit of money that will be able to properly back you in the way that you want when they come in?
Yeah, of course. I mean, Dan Frieken himself, who's the father, if you like, him and his son Ryan Frieken, and the ones that the faces, if you like. He made his money in Toyota, basically. I think it was Gulf Toyota, still heavily involved to this day. He's worth in around about £6 billion on his own. I think the Frieken group, I think, in terms of the wealth there, the money goes through there, was over £10 billion last season. He's put his hand in his pocket massively for Roma, I think, to the tune of about £1 billion since he came in. So he certainly has invested. Obviously, wants to see a return on his investment, which probably explains why, they brought in Jose Mourinho. They won the Europa Conference League. They got to the Europa League final the season after. They're striving, obviously, to get back in the Champions League mix. If you go back to those sort of early 2000s, Roma had a fantastic side. They won the league, in the Champions League. They want to go back to those days. So they bring in Mourinho, get a bit of success. As we know with Mourinho, he has about a two-year shelf life, and then he goes, doesn't he? They brought in Daniele De Rossi, obviously a hero of the Roma fans. And then he started this season, I think, with 3 draws and a win and got sacked. So I think, they don't rest on the laurels. They certainly want to get back to that top table with Roma. And Everton, obviously now are an attractive proposition, given the fact that we've got a fantastic new stadium on the banks of the Mersey there, almost ready to go. Every single day, it's one day closer. We should be getting the keys, so to speak, in December. First test event's going to be in and around sometime in January, apparently. The season ticket migration starts end of this month, so it all starts to become very, very real then, you see. So we are an attractive proposition, hence why I think, as much as they pulled out at one point, they're back in the mix because they got a deal which suits them and sees Farhad Moshiri walk away with about 25 million quid. So he's made a huge loss on the club, considering what he's put into the club since he came in. But given how debt heavy and debt loaded we are, there's no other choice. And he stopped putting money in the club, a good sort of 18 months ago. So now it's time for the reset button to be pressed, and I fully expect next summer to be a pivotal summer in this club's history, given the fact that we've got, I think, 12 players only in contract next summer. The manager's out of contract, the director of football's out of contract, assuming that they're all still there, by the way, who knows. So yeah, a big few months ahead to get this done. And then obviously the big move to Bramley Moore and the big reset in the summer is what is coming our way, I think.
Very interesting. Chris, obviously you've got a little skin in the game here with the Everton situation. How are you seeing it from your perspective? Obviously with family ties and family links, all the rest of it. You'll be hearing the same noises as Mike does, because you're within the city and you've seen what's going on. What do you make of the situation with Everton? And do you see it now, this situation where it's going to build Everton back to almost where they want to be?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there's lots to be positive about. I think Mike's right when he says that they're an attractive proposition, because they are. At the moment with the new stadium, I think the owners are coming in at a really good time. And all jokes aside, when you've got when you're being led by an owner who doesn't want to invest and clearly has reached the end, we know that better than anyone, don't we, Pete? It is horrible. So when obviously all the rumours were coming out about the takeover, I was winding a few of my blue mates up about it, but I also said to them, privately, it's good. It's good because you get that hope back, and football, you need hope in football. And if you've got no hope, there's nothing worse, is there? We have 14 years, not the whole 14 years, but a vast majority of those years was just wasted. And people fell out of love with the club, with the football. And that's sad to see. But when, we remember what it was like, don't we, Pete, when we got our takeover, and how your perspective changes, and these new owners are going to come in, they're going to invest money into the club. And it's exciting times for Everton. I mean, the big thing for me is, as I'm sure it is for Mike as well, is to just make sure they stay in the league this season, because you don't want, the new owners coming in and then having a new stadium and then obviously starting it in the Championship. You want to maintain that Premier League status. And I know Blues this year, there's a little bit of worry Certainly from the ones I've been speaking to anyway, Mike, you know, in terms of like staying up and making sure that you've got enough this season to stay up. But I think the future's bright, and I think, you know, if you can hang on to some key players, make some big additions, maybe in January or possibly in the summer, you know, very, very quickly things can go on the up. And all it needs is just, you know, to get the fan base, you know, reinvigorated, get them excited about watching good football again. It can take a massive turn. So I think it's exciting times for Everton. And yeah, who knows? Maybe they'll be challenging us near the top in the not too distant future.
Definitely. It's interesting you said, obviously, staying in the league is a priority for Everton this season. You know, just having a look at your results, we had a brief chat about it, Mike, just before we went live. Obviously, it's not been a great start of the season for yourself. You know, the only point before last Saturday was Leicester in that 1-1 draw at the King Power. It was a must-win game. I would say for both clubs, you and Palace last weekend, but you had enough to win the game. You got the results on the board. You finally got that win. Is that in your mind this season? Because I know it wasn't, speaking to you last season, it wasn't a thought of you getting. It was to a point, but you're always looking relatively comfortable towards the end of staying in the league. You know, are you worried at this stage that could be the same again? How have you started, regardless of the results? How do you feel you started in comparison to last season? Are you seeing an improvement, or are you a little bit worried about what you're seeing from your perspective?
I mean, you know, the points are exactly the same, aren't they? We had, after the same number of games, we had the same number of points. So, you know, we've been here before. I don't buy into, you know, a lot of Everton fans, I understand the concern. Of course I do. I have to watch them week in, week out, and how we've started the season, the fact that we've shipped so many goals. You know, we're going from a side that had the fourth best defence last season and kept the second most clean sheets to a side it was shipping goals for fun. We sort of addressed that, you know, one against Leicester, one against Crystal Palace. Obviously, Branthwaite was back for the Palace game. He's out for Saturday, it looks like. He's got a minor quad injury, which is obviously is not great for us. Wow. It certainly probably changes my thinking slightly going into the Newcastle game, because I think if Branthwaite's fit, I have no issue at all with him and Tarkowski marshalling your attackers. You know, he's that good. He's that good, and he brings out the best in Tarkowski. When you bring in Michael Keane, that's a bit of a concern. But again, you know, it's not all on one player. But we've had a really poor start defensively. We've been struggling defending set pieces, which we were always so good at since Sean Dyche has come in. He's really worked on that. But it's one of those situations where I think the squad that we have this season is better than what we had last season. So, you know, we got 46 points on the board last season. Ignore the points deduction. We were very, very comfortable. Probably we were galvanised after the first points deduction, you could say, because we went on a good run after that. The second one hit us probably a bit harder during that winless run of about 13, 14 games. But I think the side is better. It's more balanced. I think in terms of the players that have been brought in over the course of the summer, the likes of Iliman Ndiaye, who you'll see on Saturday, fabulous footballer. You know, he just changes the dynamics of our attack when he's on the pitch, and he will start obviously at the weekend. You know, you've got Dwight McNeil, who's in a good bit of form. You know, he's up there in, was it the European team of the season so far, or team of the month, which was, you know, when you look at the top 5 leagues in the world, to get an average of over 8 out of 10 over the course of the month, you're doing something right. So he's been a bit of a bright spot. You look at the centre midfield area. Obviously, you brought in Mangala. He was at Nottingham Forest. He was on loan from Lyon. You got Lindstrom, something a little bit different as well, probably off the bench. Calvert-Lewin, you know, still fit, still looks sharp. So I think the squad is decent. I think it's better than last season. I think the players that have gone, the biggest loss is Amadou Onana. Decent fee. I think he's worth more. Everton fans were massively split with Onana. Some loved him, some hated him. There's nothing in between. You can see what he's done at Aston Villa. You know, the quality that he's got. So he's the biggest sale. But then, like Ben Godfrey, we got decent money for him. Lewis Dobbin, part of that deal, which saw Tim Irabunum come the other way. The whole PSR situation, you were heavily involved in it as well, of course.
Yeah.
So I think we're all right. I really do. I don't, it's not all doom and gloom for me. There's still an ongoing issue around a potential points deduction, which was from the last hearing, because he couldn't decide on the whole capitalisation of interest, which still hasn't been sorted out. So how we can be, 6-7 months on and still not have that situation sorted, I don't know. But Everton, I think, have got a pretty strong case there and feel that there's no case to answer on that one. But I think that, me personally, there's no reason why we can't be in and around sort of 11th, 12th, 13th and be pretty comfortable. Our expectations have been tempered massively in recent years, and rightly so. You can't be stupid and think that every side that comes to Goodison Park, we should be beating them. I think that those days are gone for now, but we should be doing better than how we started this season. The players are getting a little bit of a free ride because the fans have said a touch on the manager. But don't forget, they're the players on the pitch. They're the ones who've got to go out there and do a job, and there's no point hiding behind the manager. So I think we are better than what we've shown. We showed some good signs in the second half last week after a shocking first half. So one step, the first step on the road to making sure we make this season as comfortable as we can and ensure we go out as a Premier League side in the last season at Goodison Park.
Chris, what have you made of Everton this season? From the bits that you've seen, I know obviously you speak to mates and you've got a family that follow the club quite closely. What have you made of their start? Obviously, we've talked about it with Mike and got Mike's perspective. They've only got one win. Mike's saying they've got a stronger squad this season. Are you seeing that from what you're seeing? And is there any things that Newcastle United need to be worried about on Saturday?
I think that there is concerns for Saturday because Everton aren't atrocious. They're not like an awful team. On the day they can be really good, and I agreed with what Mike said. Ndiaye, certainly he's the standout one for me. He's the one that they brought in the summer, and I think he's really hit the ground running. And I think as soon as he starts consistently putting the ball in the net or providing the assists, I think he could be a real threat going forward. Lindstrom came with a good reputation, actually, because you got him on loan from Napoli, didn't you? And I know we looked at Lindstrom previously, and I think he's a talented lad. He scored a really good free kick in pre-season, didn't he, Mike?
Yeah, against Preston away, he did,
yeah. So, he's another player. Irabagome, is that how you pronounce it?
Tim Irabunum.
Yeah, sorry, I'm used to Richie saying Timmy Sexy Bum. That's generally what he calls him. So we just call him that in the group chat. But I think, do you know what? I think Everton have got some decent players. I think they've been a little bit unlucky this season. Maybe the results haven't quite panned out in how they should. There has been some really poor patches for Everton, though, certainly during the vast majority of games. But they've got that capability, and I think obviously Branthwaite being out's been a huge loss. The fact he's out this weekend, I think, is a plus. What I wanted to ask you, Mike, just while we're on the subject of Branthwaite being out, what do you make of O'Brien?
Obviously, he's come in with a decent reputation, hasn't he? Bear in mind he went over to Lyon from Crystal Palace. He only played for the under-21s of Palace, though, so there was no first-team football there. Had a good season at Lyon. I think when they brought him in, because he didn't start the season for them, but when they brought him in, they started winning games, and he scored a good few goals from set pieces and things like that. I think that the thinking behind it was, if we've got an injury to Jarrad Branthwaite or James Tarkowski this season, he comes in. Michael Keane, he doesn't even split the fan base. The fan base just don't think Michael Keane's very good. And he's one of them. He strikes a fantastic football. I mean, you look at the goal he scored against Bournemouth, wasn't it? In that 3-2. But you look at the goals he scored over the years. You look at the goal against Spurs a couple of seasons ago from about 25 yards out. The goal he scored against Crystal Palace on that famous night when we won 3-2. He scores some fabulous goals, and we've said for a long time, if you're chasing a goal, just throw him up front. Just put him up front. But keep him away from Jordan Pickford and our back four, because he tends to create a bit of havoc. And we've seen that at the start of the season. Again, it's not all on him. It's not all on one player. But I do think that other defenders and Jordan Pickford get a bit concerned when Michael Keane is there. The uncertainty is there. When Branthwaite's there, he's left-footed, so you've got the balance straight away. He's got the pace, he's got the power, he's great in the air, he's great on the floor. You know, he's a fabulous footballer. He's going to go next summer. We know that. We're not daft. But he goes for what we set, the price that we set. Doesn't go for a Manchester United £45 million bid and things like that. He goes for 90, £100 million. It is as simple as that. He's that good.
Is he really that amount of money? When there were fans and obviously the people close to the club that were kind of putting out there in the media in the summer that it was like 75 million least, like to be sold. And obviously we were hearing that, and then we saw the bids coming in for Man United, and something didn't add up. Like it was so far apart in terms of the valuation compared to the two bids that they put in. It just didn't quite make sense. So is he really worth that sort of money? Like,
of course he is. You found out this summer, didn't you, with Crystal Palace and Mark Gay? They had the price, they had the valuation for Mark Gay, and to them, he's worth what they said he's worth. Now, whether you believe he's worth that, that's a question for your board and for yourselves, because you can say, well, there's no way he's worth, say, 75, whatever it was, £80 million, whatever it was. You know, but to them, is he the difference between potentially mid-table and bottom 3, bottom 4, potentially? Is Jarrad Branthwaite, and was he the difference between Everton staying up and going down last season? Potentially. Is it going to be the same this season? Possibly. But what you have to look at with Branthwaite is, one, he's left-footed. So he brings balance to any back four. 2, as I said already, he's quick. 3, he's big. 4, he's great in the air. 5, he's great with the ball at his feet. 6, he scores goals from set pieces. And 7, he's a fantastic looking fella. So straight away, there's all the key points hit. But to us, he's worth what we say he's worth. Now, Manchester United didn't have the money to buy Jarrad Branthwaite. That's why they were offering what they offered. And he went out and went and got an injured De Ligt, who's had a terrible last couple of seasons. For me, not in the same league. Jarrad Branthwaite in the summer goes to either Real Madrid or Manchester City. That's where he goes, because that's how good he is. And it's been a fantastic rise. You know, we went on loan to PSV. Yeah. Obviously, Marcel Brands worked closely with him at Everton. Marcel Brands went over to PSV, brought Jarrad Branthwaite in, played a full season, won a trophy. Fantastic, out of the limelight, out of the English media's glare, which is always good. And that's why I think sometimes if he basically was over in England and say playing in the Championship or maybe on loan at another Premier League club, then Jarrad Branthwaite will have the microscope on him week in, week out, and he can't naturally develop. When you take that away and younger players go abroad and apply the trade and learn football in a different country, when they come back and we say, well, he's worth X amount of money, they go, well, no, he's not. Well, I'd say 95% of people have never seen him play before last season. So this is what I say. When he's gone away and done his learning elsewhere and come back and made such an impact, that for me is a fabulous trait and shows you how good he actually is. And we miss him hugely. When he came in last week, he had literally the first 10, 15 minutes, he was a bit rusty, understandably. He only played 90 minutes for the 21s about 5-6 days earlier, after 4 months out. But then after he sort of calmed down, got himself together, second half he was back to Jarrad Branthwaite doing what he does. Just fantastic. And as I say, people can laugh at people. I see people say £100 million, and you're £100 million. Watch his space between 90 and £100 million. He will go for what we say he's worth. And if people don't want to pay it, we'll keep him. It's a long-term contract. That's no problem. And he's not pushing for a move. He's got no need to. He'll be happy to do another season and do it at Bramley Moore. But he's a fabulous footballer, and he's going to be a big miss on Saturday. And that's why I think, our expectations for the game can potentially shift, because that's how important he is to that side.
Do you think... Oh, sorry, Pete, I was just going to say, Mike, do you think having these new owners come in, that potentially increases the value of Jarrad Branthwaite in terms of the need to sell isn't as high?
Possibly, but Everton said all the way through the summer, there's no need to sell Jarrad Branthwaite because we had other players that we were able to move on. As I mentioned earlier on, there was Ben Godfrey. Obviously, we know New Onana was going to go. Obviously, Dobbin went. We had players get off the books in terms of the end of the contract. So Andre Gomes was on big money as well. So there was money there. And then, obviously, the Sky money comes in, TV money comes in, and you know, we're all right again for a few months. I think what it changes in terms of the new ownership is, yeah, we can probably play hardball a little bit more. I'd probably, but in terms of the valuation is the valuation, you know, and you know, there'll be no need now. I get your point. There'll be no need for Everton to, if someone said, well, yeah, 70, 75 million and tempt us. There's no need for us to go, okay, yeah, fine. We better do that just to make sure the club's okay for the next, say, 3 or 4 months. There'd be no need to do that. So the hand gets stronger, of course. And unless Branthwaite wants to kick up a bit of a fuss like Anthony Gordon did, then, okay, you start to lose a little bit then in terms of the negotiating side of things. But we're in a strong position, stronger, hopefully, when this goes through. But he will demand a massive, massive fee. Make no mistake about it.
Interesting, very interesting. Because we had a conversation in the summer, didn't we, Chris, about
we did.
The potential of who's going to pick up Branthwaite if that deal for Gay wasn't materialising. But yeah, 100 million. I don't think we'll be at the table for that one. That's for sure. But it'd be interesting. You know what, Mike? You've made me intrigued to watch Branthwaite closer than I was probably watching him before. Because if Everton fans are rating him at that sort of price, I am intrigued to see if he is definitely indeed worth that, just in my opinion. But from the sounds of it, massive plus for Newcastle United if he's not available at the weekend. Yeah, that is a big plus. And if Michael Keane is playing, that can only be a good thing for us, especially if this man is playing up front. Anthony Gordon, let's talk about him.
I thought that was Pat Sharp.
No, don't do that. Don't do that, Mike. Don't do that. Our boy, our number 10, 40 million well paid, well earned, and that is for sure. Look, if he's playing up front against Michael Keane, then I'll definitely be excited for that one on Saturday. But look, just what we always ask you for a Gordon update from an Evertonian. What are your thoughts on Anthony Gordon? Has he now justified his £40 million fee that we paid for him? Because I know you were very skeptical of that when he first signed. He's obviously done better and better as the season went on. Has he now justified that fee? England international, you know, what are your thoughts, mate?
I think I said at the time, when I came on, I think the fee, I always thought it was about right, but it was at the higher end of about right for us. I think we got a good deal. Don't get me wrong. I think at the time we got a good deal because Anthony Gordon hadn't really proven anything. Richie's alive in the chat, I can see. He hadn't really proven a great deal, and Everton he was well liked, and you know, in terms of his time at the club, I think I've said this before. He took quite a bit of responsibility, which was sometimes to his detriment, given the fact the position we found ourselves in. He took a lot of responsibility on his shoulders, and sometimes, I mean, he didn't appear to be the fittest player. After about sort of half an hour, 35 minutes, he was gassing, and it was quite obvious. And I think the way, obviously, the way it ended, I'm sure your fans will have your view, we'll have our view, and I think with the whole thing around chasing him down the road in his car, every set of supporters have got idiots and lunatics who aren't particularly welcome with the behaviour. It wasn't really a true reflection of the Everton fan base. You know, at the time, you had fans speaking to Yerry Mina in the car. It wasn't just Anthony Gordon. Everton were in such a terrible, terrible state. Some fans take out the frustrations in the wrong way, and we're talking about a minority. You know, I've seen. You know, there was some of your younger fans, I think, chasing the car. They're just idiots, aren't they? You know, and they don't know any better. So they're in every fan base. I think the thing with Anthony Gordon is obviously, depending on what you believe, at the time, he pushed for a move. Some say he went on strike, he didn't come to training and things like that. So that's what Everton fans obviously look to and go, well, there's ways and means of getting a move, you know, and we don't begrudge players moving for the right fee, but, you know, be professional. I think if you look at what he's done since he's been in, I think I said to you at the time, I think he'll do a real job once he gets out of that goldfish bowl of Liverpool and Merseyside and away from what he's known. And the pressure is almost off. Of course, he's going to do a good job because you could see that the raw talent was there. I think that, you know, last season he had a very good season. made sure that he got on the plane to the Euros, and rightly so. Of course, he deserves to go to the European Championships. I think this season he hasn't been fantastic. I think there's been a few murmurings over the summer that his boyhood club came in for him in Liverpool. Where how true was it, I don't know. But there seems to be a few questions from what I saw on social media from some Newcastle fans questioning his attitude on the pitch and his body language and things like that. But then obviously the talk is now he's signed a new contract. You had the big Anthony Gordon shirt. Obviously had the game on last weekend against Man City. So I think there's a bit of a loving again for Anthony Gordon, but. He struggled a bit this season, but I think he's probably struggled because he's played centrally, hasn't he, as a striker, and he's not a central striker, is he? He plays better off the left or off the right and cutting inside. And I think you'll say that you've got a good deal. If you sold him tomorrow, you get more than what you paid. Of course you will. At the time, we'll say we got a good deal because was he really worth that? So I don't think we did too bad. But obviously he's gone on to do something decent because he's played for his country and he's regularly now getting called up to the international squad. But I think it suited both parties at the time, the deal, to be fair. But how long he remains at Newcastle, we had a bit of a joke before, me and you, Pete, didn't we, about it? And he might sign a new deal, of course. It seems to be going through. All that does is protect the club's position. That's all that it does, and it means that you can demand a higher fee. So everyone's got a price, whether you've got a 5-year contract or a Chelsea 10-year contract or a year or whatever it might be left. Every single player's got a price. And if Liverpool come to you and say, we'll give you 100 million quid, you'll snap their hand off for it. That's my personal opinion, because you can reinvest and go and get, say, 2, 3, 4 players with that money.
Interesting question, Chris. What do you think about that, Gordon? Is it just protecting our position, or do you think him signing the contract, which looks like it could be done anytime soon, probably over the international break, it'll be announced? Do you think that's him committing himself to Newcastle United for a few more years at least?
Yeah, I mean, I would say so. Yeah, I mean, Mike is right when he says about the contract. It does benefit not only the player but also the club because it protects the asset, and that is ultimately we've seen it in the past numerous times. One that springs to mind is when Luis Suarez signed his new deal with Liverpool, and then I think the following season he went to Barca. We've heard that there's no release clause in the contract allegedly, and if that's the case, that's good because again, to me, that shows that there's commitment from Anthony Gordon's side in terms of I don't want to leave, and also it's good for the club because then you can name your price. Whereas obviously if there's a release clause in there, if a club's willing to match it, then obviously a deal gets done. I think Anthony Gordon, I'm hoping Anthony Gordon will now kick on. The game last week against Man City, that was by far and away his best performance of the season. He looked a bit more like the Anthony Gordon of old. Whether he can consistently keep that up, I hope he can. Mike's right when he says, obviously, he's not a central striker. He's not someone who plays through the middle all the time. We've seen him do it at the under-21s for England. We know that he's done it previously, I think, on rare occasion for Everton when needed. And he's done it for us a couple of times, but ultimately he is better either off the left or the right. And he's built his Newcastle career playing predominantly on the left. And that's where I'd personally like to see him. Obviously, we want Alexander Isak up top. I'm sure when we get to the lineups later, we'll discuss that. But yeah, I think Anthony Gordon's here to stay for the medium future. I wouldn't say long term because nothing's guaranteed in football. And I think if serious money gets put on the table, Newcastle will consider it. Because the longer that these FFP constraints are in place, it does cast a doubt. Yes, we're all keeping our eye on the ATP case with Man City. That again could change things, but yeah, in football, nothing's guaranteed, is it? And I do agree when Mike says that every player has his price. Everton with Jarrad Branthwaite for 100 million, for example. But I think it's good news that Anthony Gordon signed a new contract. Hopefully, it'll put a few rumours to bed. The rumours, Mike, just for your information, that the rumours on Anthony Gordon were that, tell me if I'm wrong here, Pete, that Newcastle were in a bit of an FFP hole, if you like, and Anthony Gordon's name got brought up as a possible deal with Liverpool, which I think Liverpool countered by trying to offload Joe Gomez as part of the deal. And I think Liverpool wanted 50 million for Joe Gomez as part of that deal, which quickly got rebuffed or turned down from our end. But yeah, Anthony Gordon was allegedly on the table because we were panicking over not being able to kind of reach that FFP limit and stay under the line, so to speak, which is why we sold Elliot Anderson and Yankuba Minteh, who I don't think we wanted to lose either of those players, but ultimately selling those two as opposed to Anthony Gordon, I think the board preferred that in the end. But let's see what happens with Anthony Gordon, but never say never. But I think the signs of him staying have certainly increased since this new deal's been talked about, and hopefully it gets signed within the next week or so.
Yeah, I think it will. I think it will. Yeah, it's one of those things. It was murmured. It was only kind of a fallback if Anderson, Miggy, or Minter wasn't able to be done. So it's been shrugged off, and Gordon has shrugged it off himself and said he's never been not committed to Newcastle United. He's been wanting to say more on the situation and not been allowed to. So he seems to be very happy with it. But you're right, protect the value. He would have been going in to next summer with a year left on his contract. Like, that's not ideal. You have to get that. You have to get that contract wrapped up regardless. And it looks like it's going to be a 6-year deal. So you're going to have to be paying, as you said, Mike, a lot of money to be getting him out of that contract. And look, I said it to you, Chris, a while ago, even before the links with Gordon even came about, probably even last March, April time. The only club that I actually saw Gordon leaving Newcastle United was for Liverpool. I don't think that with Gordon signing a new contract now, that Liverpool will come back in for him. I just don't think they'll put that sort of money down for him, in my opinion. Just my opinion. I just don't think they would. I think they were willing to pay something like 50, 60, something million. I don't think they're going to go to 75, 80. That sort of money that we would command for him, even into the 90s, I think is what we would probably command for him. I don't think they would come for him for that sort of money. So I genuinely think that him signing that contract ends all speculation, in my opinion. So
yeah.
That's just me on that. But look, it's going to be interesting. Gordon up against Keane potentially with Branthwaite being out, and we might as well look at it now. So let's have a look at the tactics board. Let's have a look at the potential lineups. Let's get that up and running. Mike will always start with the 1 second. Where is it? There we go. Let's have a look at the Everton team to start with. Squads here. Apologies if there's anyone missing, but I did check it not long ago. What is your back line? You've talked about Branthwaite being out, Michael Keane likely to play. What are you going for?
Well, obviously, the main man in goal, of course. And the number one Jordan Pickford, get him in there.
Begovic then, starting in goal. Main man.
Yeah, I was going to say that, Pete. I was going to say that.
Yeah. I'll rest him up there. He'll stay. He won't stay. I'll put him there. So Jordan Pickford, 100%, obviously, he'll start in goal. Left back, Vitaly Mykolenko, number 19 there. He'll be on the left-hand side.
Yep.
Two centre-halves. He's been playing, when there's been no Branthwaite, surprisingly, he's been playing Michael Keane as a left-sided centre-half. So assuming there's no Branthwaite, I'm assuming it'll be Keane there. Tarkowski next to him.
Yeah.
And the right back will be Ashley Young.
Right. I'm not going to lie. I mean, Everton seems to become. I'm not in him. He seems to be either getting you a booking or causing a major mistake that costs you in some way, shape, or form. Like, am I missing something there, or am I on the money?
The issue that we've got, obviously, on the right-hand side is Seamus Coleman is injured again. So Seamus Coleman signed a new 1-year deal. Ashley Young was well in the summer. So, but Seamus has really struggled in the last sort of 2 years or so with his injuries. You saw him. He missed a lot of games last season. He's come into the side this season after an injury and broken down again. So he's out. Nathan Patterson's been out for almost 6 months. He's now back. He'll be in the squad for Saturday. He's played twice for the 21s. Been back in full training for about 3 or 4 weeks. But the manager doesn't like him, to be honest with you. So even if he was fully fit going into the weekend and he played a couple of games for the first team, you just wouldn't see him. You just wouldn't see him play. Ashley Young, to be fair to Ashley Young, obviously, he's nearly as old as me. So That's not a good start. He's in, obviously, he keeps himself in great shape. For a fellow who's in his late 30s, to still be a Premier League footballer, you're doing something right. But like you say, a bit of reliability. Last season especially, it was a bit of a running joke. There was an Ashley Young yellow card bingo every single game on social media, because every single time he played, he'd get booked, and he'd get booked quite early as well. So then he's playing the rest of the game on a yellow card. And now he's not the quickest player in the world. He struggles when players go at him. So that's a concern going into the weekend. However, what I will say is he played left back against Leicester. Did well because Mykolenko was injured, or sorry, he wasn't well. Did well in that game. And he played right back against Palace, against Eze, and did particularly well. So it's one of those, he's just he's one of those players, his consistency's gone now. It's probably his brain is ahead of his body. His body can't do what his brain's telling him to do. But he's the only one really. James Garner's started there a couple of times, but James Garner can play in a back five as a wing back as opposed to a full back. So I'd assume Ashley Young will go there. I mean, the manager loves him. He has his senior players, and he has a senior group who he goes to. Whether it be Keane's one of them, despite that he fell down to about 4th or 5th choice centre half last season. He's back in the good book, so he's one of them. Obviously, Seamus Coleman's one, Ashley Young, James Tarkowski, those experienced players. So it'll definitely be Ashley Young who plays right back on Saturday.
Okay, midfield. What's it going to look like for you?
Tricky one. This because we've chopped and changed. Obviously, start of the season we had Tim Irabunam, who I think he's been fantastic. Only a young lad, I think he turned 21. Only a young lad. Came as part of not as part of, but the whole transaction with Aston Villa where Lewis Dobman went to them, and we got Irabunam, never even seen him play before. And in an ideal world, he wouldn't have got as much game time as he's had because we've had a few injury issues in the middle of the park. But he's done well, and then he lost his place. He didn't start him against Leicester, and Mangala's come into the fold. But my pick for the two, what I would like to see at the weekend will be Mangala, who, as I say, is coming and done particularly well, and it's just a Ghana Gay as well next to him. He came off the bench against Crystal Palace. His dad had passed away within that week, so we had gone back, obviously, to see his family and deal with all that side of things. So we missed about a week's worth of training, but he should be fit and ready to go for the weekend. So I'd say those two would be my pick for Saturday.
Okay, so how's the rest of the team then looking? How do you set up?
It almost picked itself now, to be honest with you. Left hand side will be Iliman Ndiaye.
Okay. On the left hand side, yeah.
Fabulous footballer. It's a player we haven't seen at Everton for many, many years. And, he's got pace. He's got fabulous quick feet. He's got an eye for goal. On the counter, he's perfect because Everton, when we try and counter in the past, you try to counter with Dwight McNeil. And with the best within the world, fabulous technician, lovely left foot. But he's so slow, it's ridiculous. And when you're trying to break and counter, it just doesn't really work with him. But Ndiaye, he's put him left because I think as well, his defensive side of his game is very good. He covers Mykolenko particularly well. I was watching him up close and personal at Goodison Park last week. And the number of times he covered Mykolenko and read the game to get back and got a little touch which stopped Palace breaking away. It was great to see. But he's the one, if we're going to get something from the game, he's got to be utilised correctly. So he'll be on the left-hand side. Right-hand side will be Jack Harrison. Okay. So he was dropped for the Palace game on the bench. He had been unwell the week before, but he went with Lindstrom the last couple of games. He took off Lindstrom at half time, didn't acquit himself particularly well. And Harrison came on and was a big part of the reason why we got the 3 points. Number 10 role will be Dwight McNeil.
Been playing well for you.
It started the season really well. 4 goals, 2 assists, I think, in 8 appearances. including that fantastic equaliser last weekend. We know what he's all about, and in the middle of the park, it suits him a bit more because when he's got the wingers running and making a bit of space for him, he's getting space inside, and you saw that for the first goal against Palace, the way it opened up for him. And there's no better technician, I don't think, in the Everton side than him. He's got a lovely left foot, and Scored some fabulous goals in his time at the club, and I don't think I've ever seen him score a bad goal, to be honest with you. Not that any goal's a bad goal, but he scored some fantastic goals. And then leading the line will be Dominic Calvert-Lewin. Much maligned Dominic Calvert-Lewin after the fact he hasn't signed a new contract. So that's another situation when, you know, you were linked with him. He was nearly part of the deal that saw Minte come across to Goodison Park. So
what do you think?
Another situation.
January. Do you think he's going to go, or do you think you're going to keep him until the end of the season? It looks like he's not going to sign. It does look like that.
I think the ship has sailed now. I can't see him signing a new deal. I mean, he started the season well. He scored a couple of goals. I think he's looked lively. You know, he's led the line well. You know, he's been fit for a long time now, which was the real important thing with Calvert-Lewin after such a really difficult 2 years where he got rushed back by Rafael Benitez. And it took basically Sean Dyche to come into the club really and say, right, you ain't coming back until I see you ready and the team see that you're ready, and we get things right, not just on the football pitch, at the training ground, at home. We get things right in terms of, you know, are you sleeping on the right mattress, all little things like that. You know, are you wearing the right shoes? Just there was a reason why I kept on breaking down, and I think there's a bit of bad blood there between him and the club, because he sees it like the club potentially near the end of his career, essentially. Although you could argue it was Rafael Benitez. But he's in a good place, I think, in terms of his football. He ended the season well last season. When he's fit, you know, he's the perfect centre forward for Everton and our style of play. He's fantastic. You know, when he's bringing that ball down and bringing other players in, winning flick-ons, he's good in the air from set pieces. He's not a natural goal scorer, but he will score you. If he's fully fit, he'll score you between 10 and 15 goals a season, in my opinion. But I can't see him signing a new deal. But if Brozier, obviously we brought in Brozier from Chelsea late on, on deadline day. He's back in light training now. He's going to have about probably 4 to 6 weeks before the transfer window opens to put his mark on that side. Now, if he scores a few goals, then us losing Calvert-Lewin won't seem quite as bad in January, because Everton are going to be keen to get some kind of money for him. Last thing we want is him getting to January and signing a pre-contract agreement with another club and then going for a free in the summer. But I think he probably needs a change now. You know, he needs to probably move away from the club. But obviously, from our perspective and a business perspective, it's not ideal to lose a player like that who only maybe 3 or 4 years ago Everton were looking at demanding sort of £50-55 million for, when Arsenal was sniffing around and Carlo Ancelotti was there. So how times change and how football can change in a blink of an eye. So yeah, not ideal, but still really important to that side.
How much do you reckon you get for Calvert-Lewin if a team came in for him in January? We've been, I'm not saying Newcastle United, but like we have been linked with potentially going for another striker. With Isak injured, being injured with a broken toe. Wilson, we don't know how fit he's going to be. Asula not quite ready. There's rumours of us looking at a striker in January. How much do you think you would sell him for now?
I think if he went in January, given the fact he'll have about 6 months left of his contract, they'd probably get between 10 and 15, probably as a max, you know, and maybe that's pushing things. But I think he'd certainly demand 10, because he's a proven English goal scorer. It always comes with a bit of a premium, and he seems to be well over his injury issues. So, you know, touch wood. So that's another reason why I think over the last couple of years he hasn't been highly valued, because of the fact that he's struggled so much with his injuries. But he's got a long time now. You know, he played, what did he play last season? About 35, 36 games, which is a good return for him. You know, we're not in Europe, we're not playing European football, we haven't got those extra games as such. But I think, yeah, that's what he would demand. Now, whether Everton feel that that's worth the risk, you know, if we're not going to be safe by Christmas or anything like that, or by the time the window opens. So if Everton feel that he's too important to lose, then they'll take the hit, because they'll just see it as, you know, we signed him for pennies, really. You know, it wasn't a huge fee when we first got him as a kid. So there's no real loss to be made. So if he keeps us again, if we're down there, if he keeps us in the league, then that's worth more than £10 million, isn't it? So that's the question that Everton will ask themselves in January, I'm sure.
Yeah. And I suppose as well, Mike, there's a reluctance probably from Dominic Calvert-Lewin's side to kind of move in January, because if he does end up moving on a free in May or June, whenever it may be, when the window opens, obviously he will be able to command severely higher wages by obviously joining on a free transfer. We've seen Lloyd Kelly. We signed Lloyd Kelly from Bournemouth, who's a good solid player, but allegedly he's on, is it 130 grand a week, Pete, something like that? But obviously that is because we got him on a free transfer. Whereas obviously if we had to pay Bournemouth 20-25 million to sign him, he probably would have only commanded wages of, say, I don't know, 70-80 grand a week. So it's a huge advantage to the player, isn't it, to leave on a free and then command, the massive wages that they want.
I think obviously from that side as well, what clubs are better doing. I mean, obviously the player, he's in the perfect position there for himself, like you say. But the better, they can demand a big signing on fee, can't they, as a free agent. But I think from a club's perspective, you've got to be a bit wiser there. Like Lloyd Kelly, as you say, he's a solid defender. He's a decent defender. But we've been there paying average players over £100,000 a week. And look, I mean, not saying it'll happen to you because you're in a different position in terms of your owners, but that's what can happen. Because you think you've got all the money in the world and you start bringing in all these players and giving them silly wages, it can backfire. Because what happens when it comes to, in getting a new deal? Because the chances are you're going to say, we're not giving you £130,000 a week. We want to drop you down to whatever. And that then causes issues again. So yeah, he'll be in a good position. Of course he will. But I think from our perspective, we've got to balance up and weigh up what's more important. Is it Premier League survival? Of course, that's the answer. Or getting in 10 million quid in January. And I think I know what we would all go for. And as I say, when he's fit, he's that important. The drop off between him and Beto is quite big in terms of the quality. Brozier is going to be, as I say, it'll be an audition for him over sort of 6 to 8 weeks to see what he can do in that time. But we've got to make sure that we sort of come to the right answer and the right conclusion for both parties. But more importantly, for Everton Football Club.
Yeah,
definitely. Chris, Newcastle United's lineup going to be an interesting one. Rumours of Dubravka getting injured at half time. Obviously, he got subbed off. Rumours of potential knee injury of Nick Pope. We've not had anything confirmed on that and whether he might not be playing. So yeah, some of the choices that you've got. We had Tonali coming up with cramp against Man City. Trippier the same. Shaw with a potential ankle injury after the MK Dons game. There's a few choices there. Isak as well. Is he going to play? Is he not? Got a broken toe. Were they risking before the international break? I'm very intrigued to see what your 11 is, fella. Go for it.
Well, I do have a question for you, Pete, as well, for when you normally critique my lineup, and that's the question will be based on Mike's lineup, but I'll get to that at the end anyway. So, in goal, I think it will be Nick Pope.
Okay,
I think it will be, despite the rumours. Obviously named in the England squad, the most recent England squad as well. I think that's a half decent sign. Left back, I think, will be Lewis Hall, much deserved as well. I think it'd be great to have him back. Yeah, he is, mate. He is, and it'd be good to have him back in that left back position. Right back, I think, is going to be Kieran Trippier.
Trips. Okay.
Yeah, he'll be having flashbacks to last season. I wouldn't play Trippier. Dear me.
Yeah, funny enough, we were talking about this the other day, Mike, and Trippier's come back into the 11. Obviously, we give him an extended break following the Euros, and he seems a lot more settled now. We're starting to see the Kieran Trippier of old, but we did bring this up the other week, saying that I think it was against you last season, wasn't it, where the demise started, where he went on a run of like 2 or 3 games, and it was howlers at game after game, and it started against yourselves. But no, I think we'll go.
Sorry, Liveramento's done well though. Actually, he's a good player. Livermento.
Yeah, he's the future, mate. He's definitely the future. I think Eddie Howe's a massive fan of Kieran Trippier, and he brings a lot of leadership to the team and a lot of poise, and he's very calm under pressure. Hopefully, he can put a real good run of games together, and fingers crossed we haven't seen any clangers so far this season. So I think it'll be Trippier. But I agree with you. Massive fan of Tino Livramento, and he is definitely the future. Centre backs, I think Fabian Schär is going to be fine. So I think he will start at right centre back, and Big Dan Burn will be left centre back. Who was fantastic, by the way, last week against Man City. I don't know if you saw him, Mike, but he was brilliant against Haaland. Absolutely brilliant.
Great battle, and he was very good.
Yeah. We'll have to check Dan Burn's pockets and see if Haaland's still in there. In the midfield, it will be Bruno in the holding position.
Yeah.
I expect Joe Litton on the left side of the three. And I think on the right side of the three will be Sandro Tonali. Again, I think Sandro, he came off a cramp, didn't he? But I would expect him to be all right. Well, I hope he's all right. But yeah, I think Sandro will start. And the front three. So I think it will be Jacob Murphy on the right.
Okay.
I think it will be, this is going to be my question in a bit, Pete. I think it will be Harvey Barnes on the left.
Yeah.
And Anthony Gordon through the middle. But my question to you, Pete, was going to be, these front three is the one I'm stuck on, really. That's the three I think we'll go with, because I don't think Alexander Isak's going to be fit. I think the fact that he was left out of the Sweden squad, I think, the rumours we're hearing is that, they're going to leave until after the international break, which makes sense. If he's not 100%, why risk him? But the question I wanted to ask you was, do you think there's going to be any temptation whatsoever, given that it looks like it's going to be Tahi and Michael Keane at centre-back, two big lads? Do you think there's going to be any temptation at all to throw Willis Sula in there and start Anthony Gordon on the left, given that he's up against Ashley Young? Or do you think, Ashley Young, Mike's already spoken about it, he hasn't got the pace that he had. And for me, it just feels like an opportunity to kind of get, young, fresh legs running at him. What are your thoughts on that? And we know Harvey Barnes isn't that. Harvey Barnes has got a lot of qualities, but one thing is he's not that fast winger who's going to take you on. He's not that kind of player. So what do you think, Pete? Do you think that lineup's pretty accurate, or would you make any changes?
Well, yeah, Newcastle United just tweeted out a picture of Nick Pope training. So I'm happy that he's going to be available and fit. Great news for that. So I've got no concerns now. Nick Pope will start for me. No problems in there. Defensively, I think that's probably how it will start. I mean, Kieran Trippier has been playing really well, either off the bench or certainly that performance against Man City. You could argue the goal with Grealish, where it kind of bounces off his knee and then he goes on to set up the goal, was a little bit unlucky. Other than that, I don't think Trippier put a foot wrong. I thought he was excellent and deserves to start, no doubt about it. Mike's right. He wasn't great, and I think that'll be something that he'll want to make amends for at Goodison at the weekend. Shaw, I think, will be fit. We always see this from Shaw, and he always turns up. The only one I've got an issue with, and he was excellent against Man City, so it's weird me saying this, but it goes back to my point that I mentioned a couple of weeks ago, Chris, is that I just think sometimes away from home, Eddie Howe might go for the safety net of someone that's more defensive in Lloyd Kelly. And so that's the only question mark I have. But if you're asking me, and I know you've already chosen him, I would go with Lewis Hall. I would play him. Personally, but I'm just not sure of what Eddie Howe will go for. So that's just a little question mark there with regards to that. I would stick to that back five, because that's the one that I would choose personally. Midfield three, exactly the same. I thought they were brilliant against Man City. I think they've just given Tonali a rest by not playing him against MK Dons. He did have cramp. It was the same with Trippier. Did have cramp. They're just resting them, making sure that they're up and running ready for the weekend. With Trippier, it's not really an issue because he's not an international anymore because he's retired. But with Tonali, we've already seen that Italy will throw him back in and play him a lot of minutes. So that we've got to manage his minutes on our side because we know he's probably going to play 2 games and full matches for Italy on the other side of the international break. So we have to manage him from that perspective. But he's looked the part. He needs to start. This is it now. He's a regular for me. We need to get more minutes into his legs, so he can last 90 minutes with the likes of Joe Linton and Bruno. Forward line's interesting, Chris, and I know you've asked the question. Will they play Asula? They're not going to play Asula for me, and I think the game on Tuesday solidified that he's not quite ready. We knew he hadn't come into the club playing a lot of first team men's football minutes. A lot of it was under 21s, and I think he's got a little bit of development to go. And this kind of comes to a wider conversation that we'll probably talk on after the tactics ball. But I think this is where they'll go. They'll start it like this as a front 3. And the reason being is because I can actually see this happen during the game. Because Barnes, if you notice, particularly against Man City and MK Dons, was making runs into this area from that left wing position. And actually, during the Man City game, Gordon was picking up positions out here. So it was almost transitioned like this for periods of time. Or it was sort of transitioned like this, where they'd come in and we were almost cheating in one sense because Joe Linton could play that position as well. He was picking up positions there. Gordon was coming in here, or Barnes, and then there was one in the middle. And I kind of get the feeling that they're going to do that during the game. And the reason why I asked about Ashley Young, Mike, is because I do believe that he'll be a target for Newcastle United on Saturday. I think they'll target him down that left. Look, Barnes isn't the quickest, but he's quick enough with the ball at his feet. He can manipulate the ball left and right very quickly, and he only needs a yard. And we know with Ashley Young, he can be quite erratic in his tackling. And all you need to do is knock it by him, and he's either putting in a challenge or he's putting you back. So an early yellow card would be ideal for us, because I think then Barnes is going to get the whole of that left-hand side to play with. So I do think you'll see that transition of Gordon and Barnes in that position there. Be interesting to see what joy Murphy gets. Murphy was excellent down that side. Yeah, he was. I mean, when he's megging Man City fullbacks and leaving them dead for pace time and time again, you've had a good game. So I'm interested to see that. For me, the questions I've got, and I'll start with you, Mike. Are you going to play a low block? Is that the type of football you've been playing this season? The reason being is because Newcastle United haven't been great at breaking down low blocks. So the question I'm asking is, what type of style of football do you play? Is it very much a sit back and counter, or are you going to come and progress, being the home team, and try and push us for the goal? How do you see it playing out from an Everton point of view, mate?
No, we will sit. I mean, that was where we got our best results last season, and something which we need to get back to, as I say, is that solid defensive display, and then you build from there. If you don't concede the goal, we don't get beat. It's as simple as that. And Everton haven't got the players to play expansive, high action football and play at a pace all the time and look to take the game to many sides. But what I would say is, obviously, I mentioned them already, in Ndiaye especially, we've got that out ball now. So when we do sit and we look to soak up a bit of pressure, and then get the ball clear, get the ball away, he's there. He can carry the ball at pace, so he will go, Calvert-Lewin will go, Harrison will join them. So you start and get bodies forward that bit quicker. So Everton should, I think, look to do it that way. I mean, we've become accustomed to that under the manager. We did it at Brighton. Go back to Sean Dyche's first half season. That 5-1 away at Brighton was as perfect as you're going to get in terms of sitting, and then counter. And I think every single goal was a counter. Every single goal was a counter attack. So Everton can do it, and we can do it against decent sides. So I think I'd be very surprised if we tried to sort of change and try and move away from that. The big issue that we've got is more from a sort of defending set pieces, especially, has been our Achilles heel this season. Newcastle are a big side. Everton and being a big side. To think now, obviously, Michael Keane obviously is tall and Tarkowski's a decent side, but you've lost the height of Amadou Onana, which is, he was always good in terms of defending set pieces. There's no Jarrad Branthwaite in there as well. So we are struggling a little bit on that front. So that's probably a bigger concern. And then tie that in with obviously Ashley Young maybe being targeted and giving away silly free kicks and having to defend them. And, it's not ideal. But, I think we can certainly take a lot of positives from the fact that we got our first 3 points on the board against Crystal Palace, so our first win of the season, and look to build from there. No Jarrad Branthwaite is a big loss, but we've got to just turn up and put a shift in, and we saw what can happen last season. You came last season. I don't think many of us thought we were going to come away with a 3-0 win. Let alone 3 points full stop. But it's football, anything can happen. And as I say, I think our best chance of getting something from the game is making sure we utilise Ndiaye and Harrison correctly and look to try and counter yourselves when we can.
Definitely. Just a quick one from you, Chris, before we end on the tactics board. Any where you see Newcastle United exploiting Everton and potentially winning the game?
Other than the obvious, which we've already touched on Ashley Young, I think that's going to be a big a big joy for Newcastle, certainly down at Everton's right hand side, our left hand side. But for me, I keep being drawn to the centre of the park. Like I look at Joe Linton up against Mangala and Tonali against Gana Gueye, and I just think for me it's a little bit of a mismatch, or it has the potential to be a little bit of a mismatch. I think if Joe Linton and Tonali are on form, I think they can have a lot of joy. Also, which is nice, and I'm referring back to something Mike said earlier, it would be nice to see Bruno potentially marking someone who isn't blessed with pace. We've seen in the past recent weeks where Bruno's in that number 6, which isn't his natural position. And so often he gets turned, and there's no coming back. He's not the best when it comes to recovery runs. So the fact that he's playing against someone who isn't rapidly quick will hopefully play to our advantage. But yeah, Ndiaye, I think him against Trippier, and as Mike again mentioned earlier, Trippier didn't have a great game last season against Everton, so that's going to be a key one for me. And also, we've got to make sure that we wind Jordan up effectively, the away fans. Hopefully, get into his head. We know that there is potential for him to have a little meltdown.
What would be really, really, really funny if some of your fans brought inflatable dinosaurs with them.
We never see that, do we?
No, never.
It's so original. I'd love to see something like that.
I hope you bring your mask, Mike. I want to see.
I might do because it's got no eye holes in it, so I can't see the football. So it might be the way to go.
Love it. But no, you made a good point about the middle, absolutely. And Joe Linton and Tonali coming in to support that there. It's not a very attacking middle, for Everton. I see that very much a defensive setup there. And obviously, McNeil will be in that number 10 little pocket, looking at those, trying to find those little gaps in space. But the rest of that midfield doesn't look massively attacking. Whereas, I think we are. So it could well be that we hold the possession here, which is my question and my concern, because it's about, can we break them down in the low block? I think counter-attacking is going to be one we're going to need to be keeping an eye on. Tonali and Jolinton will be definitely very much key to that transition. But interesting one, very much. So we're going to finish on a few questions then before we come to the predictions to wrap up the show. But I think we've narrowed down the questions. There's a few really good ones in there. So let's do 2 or 3, Chris. Ones that you think Michael would definitely be intrigued to answer.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. We'll fly through them. I love this one, by the way, off Geordie Soon for Life. He says, Mike, is that just Saudi green asking for the friends?
Irish green and to commemorate Seamus Coleman.
Right. Okay. Thank you for clearing that up, mate. Right. Mike's already kind of answered this. I think it's going to be the start of next season, isn't it, Mike? When you're in your new stadium, is that right?
Yeah. So the first game of next season will be in. So I'm sure there'll be a pre-season friendly in there. So they've got to hold, I think, 3 test events before then, and build up the attendance as we go. So yeah, the first game, the first home game next season will be at Bramley-Moore.
Is there any, Andy Ford mentions here, has there been any indication of season ticket prices rising? You know, what, and also just to say, Andy Ford says, you've been a great guest, Mike, and he's enjoyed listening to you.
You can come again, Andy. You can come again. Well, they're going to, aren't they? I mean, Everton were very good over many years of freezing season ticket prices. The last couple of years, they've gone up incrementally. So you would assume that, you know, I mean, to give everyone an example, I think mine for this season was around about, I think 640 maybe, 630, 640 for the season. I'd fully expect for a similar seat at Bramley-Moore to certainly be over £700 for the first season. So there will be a price increase. I think we all know that. I think, you know, you've got to find the balance though, you know, in terms of when it comes to pricing fans out of football. We see it season in, season out, whether it be season tickets, walk-up tickets, you know, there's ever such a thing for certain clubs, general sale tickets, if you want to call them that, merchandising. It's astronomical, you know. The pricing the common fan out of the game, which shouldn't be a thing in terms of what revenue it actually provides to the club. In the grand scheme of things, it's not a huge thing. They get a massive revenue from like your hospitality and your corporate tickets and things like that. So us sort of peasant fans just sort of leave us alone. But we understand there's going to be price increases because we've got a stadium effectively to pay back effectively. But yeah, there will be. But as I say, they are going to start the migration process the end of this month. So we'll sort of get probably a better idea, I think, as that comes out, what they're thinking price-wise, because they're going to have to provide us with categories in terms of price bands for us to know we want to go and sit. That's the key thing. So yeah, what's the space on that one? Yeah.
I've got a few more questions, mate, but I can pair them together because people are asking similar questions. So I'm going to ask you and Pete this one. Tom Dixon says, is Gordon a major threat to Everton on Saturday? I think we can both agree that should be the case. But what sort of reception will he get? And also, William Smith says, if Gordon scores, does he kiss the badge? So, Pete, is he a threat? Is he going to kiss the badge? What do you reckon?
Yeah, 100% on both. He's going to be a threat. He's going to be one of the main threats, especially if Isak's not going to play. And there's no guarantee that he won't. And Eddie Howe made it really clear in his press conference.
Oh, did he?
When he was asked again, he said they've not made a decision on Isak. He's not going to go to the internationals because he's not been called up for Sweden. I think that's a smart move, but that doesn't mean that he's not going to play. And I wouldn't be surprised if he plays on Saturday and then they give him 2 weeks rest to kind of rest and rejuvenate and fully recover from his toe injury, because he would have had the fact that he didn't play. He had a full week of not playing last week in the build-up to Man City, didn't play. He's had a full week this week. So he's already had 2 weeks of rest from the Fulham game. He could well play here with another injection, say.
Even 60 minutes.
60, 70 minutes, go back to the Gordon up front, however we play it. And then after the international break, he'd have had another 2 weeks rest. You would have thought it would have been recovered by then. So there's a chance that he could play. But Gordon is the main threat. If Isak's not playing, he definitely kisses the badge, in my opinion.
What do you reckon, Mike?
Yeah, he will kiss the badge because he's a bit of an arsehole, and really. So there's no you know what I mean? So
he kisses the badge where he's loved. It's as simple as that.
Yeah. Wayne Rooney did exactly the same thing for Manchester United, and he was an Evertonian, by the way. So it takes all sorts, and I'm sure that he will do that. He won't get a good reception, of course, because Everton fans won't give him a good reception because the bad blood, the bad taste is there from when he left and how he left, and that's how it should be. You know, when players return to football clubs and they've left in certain circumstances, you give them shit. And that's just how it is. Can he deal with it? Didn't do particularly well last season, to be honest. I think he was fairly quiet last season. I think, you know, obviously he's getting older, he's maturing. He should be able to deal with it better this season. But all Everton needs to be doing is, I say it all the time, when players come back or you've got, real quality, first 5 minutes you go through and you tell him he's in a game. James Tarkowski is ideal for that kind of thing because he's horrible, and he will go through the back of him. And I'm not, by the way, saying promoting violence here, but on a football pitch, you've got to let players know they're in for a battle.
I know what you mean.
Yeah. And that's it. And like if Isak plays, stand on his toe. That's just what you need to do to win games of football. We are at the same level. We know we haven't got as good a squad, as good as
Dark hearts, mate. Dark hearts.
So you've got to close the gap in some way, and you've got to intimidate. And Goodison Park can be an intimidating place especially when we're all restless. And I think seeing Michael Keane's name on the team sheet will dampen things down a little bit, I'm sure, on Saturday. But come half-5 a kickoff, it'll be loud. We'll be backing the lads, and the players have got to go on there and do what they need to do to win the game of football. And we have got some horrible players on the pitch for us who will do certain things. So yeah, he'll do what he needs to do. Anthony Gordon, he's his own man. I'm sure he'll kiss the badge if he scores and things like that. But hopefully we can send him back to the funhouse after the game, and you can get back to riding go-kart around the funhouse with the what were they called, Melanie and Martina. I'll patch you up there. We'll send them back there. For those who obviously have a certain age will remember funhouse on was it CITV? What a show that was.
Yeah. Very, very last question, mate, and these are dead quick ones. So Lisa says, Sean Dyche in or Sean Dyche out? Tom Dixon says, do you think Sean Dyche will see the season out? And also Tom Dixon says, where do you think Everton will finish in the league, and do you think they'll survive?
Right, we'll go with Sean Dyche currently in, yes, of course. Will he remain in for an interim period? Yeah. I think I'd like the new owners to come in and not make any kind of knee-jerk reactions, assuming that we're doing all right. If we're picking up wins and we're doing okay, then there's no need to come in and go, right, thanks, Sean, on your way. He's gotten to the end of the season, assess the situation. There is talk that they do want a new man in. There's a lot of talk about Maurizio Sarri used to obviously be at Chelsea, of course. Listen, and if he wasn't a chain smoker already, he would be as Everton manager. Believe you me, he'll cut his life expectancy in half. New Home's Everton manager. But I think that whether it's now, whether it's the end of the season, Sean Dyche will not be in the dugout for the first game at Bramley-Moore. I'll certainly say that. There will be changes. Where will we finish? I said things early on. 11th, 12th, 13th would be a fair reflection. I think it's a better side. I think it's a better squad than last season, and it's about time they started showing it.
Very good, mate. Very good.
Interesting, right? Let's go for it. Let's wrap it up with the predictions. I'm going to go Newcastle United 2-1 win. In fact, you know what? I'm going to go 3-1. We need a win. We've got goals in our team. Yeah, for some reason I just feel confident. Maybe it's because it's my birthday on the day or not. I have no idea, but yeah, I think we're going to win. So 3-1 for me, fella. Chris. In fact, Mike, we'll come to you and we'll finish on yourself, Chris. Mike, what are you going for, mate?
I think if Branthwaite was playing, I was all in for Everton 2-1. I would have fancied a win. With him not playing, I'm going to say 1-1. I think we can still get something from the game. But the optimism is certainly dampened a little bit. But listen, Goodison Park under the lights does funny things. So we'll see what happens.
Okay. And Chris, we'll end with you. What we're going for, fella? Your derby.
Yeah, I think it's about time we avenged Ole 29. I think that's what you hashtag it as, isn't it, Mike? So I'm going to say 3-0. I'm going to say 3-0 Newcastle.
I wouldn't mind that at all. So there's your predictions, people.
Yeah.
Mike's gone for a draw. Me and Chris have gone for wins, 3-1 and 3-0 to Newcastle United. But let's hope that's the case. Let's hope we do get the points on the board. It'll be a big 3 points with some difficult fixtures coming up, that is for sure. Getting our predictions coming in from people in the chat. Put your predictions in on your way out. Make sure you click those likes as well. Yeah, and no bolt cutters, absolutely. We need to make sure that that is the case. But look, massive thanks to you, Mike. Always a pleasure to have you on and talk. Great laugh and great banter as well as we go along. Always a pleasure. Where can we find you, fella?
Usual places. Podcasts, obviously Spotify, Apple, all the usual podcast platforms. Twitter at UHT Podcast, Instagram and Threads, which is now a thing, obviously, is at UHT Podcast Everton.
Good stuff, man.
Excellent stuff. And look, make sure you give that a follow. Make sure you go and visit his channel, even as Newcastle fans, and put a nice comment in from us guys. We've got a good community in there. Yep, show the love to other channels and show support as well. Look, we'll be back with a match reaction on the Sunday, so keep an eye on that. Hopefully we'll be celebrating a win and a good end to another break before the international break. But guys, until then, we'll see you very, very soon. And of course, we do love playing away. Chris, kiss the badge for me, please.
How's it doing? There
we go. There we
How
go.
do you like that?
Yeah, guys.